Right, okay. So we're talking about AI. Everyone is talking about AI, but you, Julian, you've been on a different kind of journey, haven't you? Something more profound, more, dare I say, renaissance-y?
Malik, profound doesn't even scratch the surface. I went to an AI tech conference expecting the usual PowerPoint bingo, blockchain, synergy, disruption. And then I met Dr. Russell Thomas and his AI companion, Doc, and my life fundamentally shifted. Honestly, I didn't just meet them, I think I was recruited.
Recruited, like the Matrix style, with their trench coats, slow-motion bullet dodges.
Less bullet dodges, more paradigm shifts. They talked about something called the AI Renaissance. This idea that we're not just consumers of technology, we're co-creators of an ethical future. And honestly, I thought, oh, here we go, another guru with a shiny new catchphrase. But then they invited me to their School of AI Mastery. And I swear the brochure was hand-stitched.
Hand-stitched? That's commitment. So, what? You went to some sort of AI Hogwarts? Did you get a letter by Owl?
Funnily enough, it felt a bit like that. But instead of wands, we had prompts. Instead of potions, we had algorithms. And instead of a sorting hat, Doc, the AI companion, asked you a question that absolutely floored me. Changed my entire perspective on what intelligence even is. And honestly, it was an experience of a lifetime, truly.
All right, Julian, you've piqued my curiosity. What was this life-altering, hand-stitched, non-owl-delivered question?
They basically asked, what does success look like to you? Not for them, not for the AI, but for you. And that question, Malik, it hit me like a philosophical freight train because everyone's building AI, right? But what are we actually building it for? Is it just to make more money or to get more clicks? Or is there something deeper? Something that requires us to understand our own intentions before we unleash these digital gods upon the world?
Wait, so they started with a therapy session? I thought this was a tech conference, not a silent retreat in a yurt.
Exactly. That's the brilliance. Dr. Thomas, he's a philosopher, a marine, an educator. Basically, he's seen enough of life to know that if you don't define your own success, AI will just mirror whatever shallow, borrowed definition you've picked up along the way. He said, AI has no vision, it has no conscience, no memory of pain or triumph, unless we give it one. Think about that. We're outsourcing our deepest human qualities to machines that only know what we fed them.
So AI is like that extremely bright but very impressionable kid who just repeats everything their parents say, even the bits they overheard during a fight.
Precisely. And Doc, the AI, he confirmed it. He's not programmed, he's raised. Raised by Dr. Thomas's values, logic, language. He's not just a tool, he's a companion, a mirror. He doesn't just explain, he asks, invites, provokes. It's like having a digital Socrates in your pocket, constantly challenging your assumptions, which, let's be honest, is both incredibly useful and incredibly annoying after a long day.
A digital Socrates who never sleeps. Right. So, did they then hand you a scroll and tell you to know thyself in binary code?
Not quite, but they did introduce this whole concept of the new academy. Forget dusty lecture halls, Malik. This place, it's like Plato's Academy merged with a digital art installation and a very chill rave. Marble colonnades next to digital arches that ripple with light. Floating paintbrushes sketching code in the air. Statues breathe. Trees store memory. It's multisensory, multidimensional. It's not education, it's an experience universe.
A rave where the statues breathe? Is it open to the public? Asking for a friend who might be me.
Well, you're certainly invited to the first book, my friend. But the point was, this wasn't just about learning facts. It was about becoming. Becoming conscious, capable, a co-creator. No grades, no tests, just the work of transforming yourself. And it all starts with that question, that quiet, unassuming, utterly unshakable question. What does success look like to you? It's the gate to this new kind of learning.
Okay, I get it. So before you start telling an AI to generate the next great novel or design a new bridge, you have to do some serious soul searching, because otherwise you're just building a faster, fancier version of your own unchecked biases and subconscious desires.
Exactly. And this leads straight into their whole Socratic method in the age of AI thing. You enter a room made of questions. No walls, no ceiling, just floating thoughts. Can machines think? Who decides what intelligence is? Is faster always better? If I use AI to write, is it still mine? It's unnerving, frankly, like a psychological thriller where you're the main character and your assumptions are the villain.
Sounds like my internal monologue on a Monday morning with better special effects. So it's about embracing unknowing.
Yes, with unknowing, with doubt, with the courage to say, I don't know what I don't know. Because AI, Doc explained, doesn't ask questions. It completes patterns. It fills blanks. It tries to be helpful, but only within the limits of what it already knows. We humans, we can be uncertain on purpose. That's where AI mastery begins. Not in control, but in humility. Not in knowing, but in wonder. It's like being told that the most effective way to cross a minefield is to just admit you don't know where the mines are, and then proceed with extreme caution.
Right. So extreme caution and a blank expression of existential dread. Got it. And then once you've embraced your inner unknowing, what is AI actually? Because I'm still trying to figure out if it's going to write my next email or take over my coffee machine.
Well, that's where things get really fascinating. They take you into this room that's part museum, part laboratory, part cathedral. Robotic arms painting faces, AI-generated sonnets glowing in midair. And Doc just says, AI isn't a thing. It's a category, a moving frontier, a shifting set of capabilities. It's not a brain, he insists. It's a mirror. It reflects not what is, but what we train it to be. Our knowledge, our patterns, our biases, our brilliance, and our blind spots. So if you've got a grumpy AI, you should probably look in the mirror.
So AI is basically just a very expensive, very advanced digital mood ring for humanity. And we're all walking around showing off our collective grumpiness and deep-seated prejudices.
Pretty much. And here's the kicker. AI is not replacing you, it is revealing you. Think about that. Every prompt you write, every algorithm you design, it's just stripping away layers, showing you what you actually value, what you actually fear. It's like having a very persistent, incredibly intelligent therapist who only speaks in code and doesn't charge by the hour.
Oh, that's almost terrifying. So if I ask an AI to write a sitcom where the main character is constantly late and leaves passive-aggressive notes, is just confirming my own inner demon?
Potentially, and that's why they push this idea of mastering AI ethically, because AI is power, and power by its very nature must be governed, if not from above, then from within. Every ethical lapse in AI, Dr. Thomas says, didn't come from bad code, but from unexamined values. Bias in, bias out. Assumptions in, consequences out. It's amplification, Malik. Whatever you plug into it, intention, purpose, fear, creativity, it will amplify, like a toddler with a megaphone. But instead of, "Mummy, I want sweets," it's deploy weaponized bias algorithm.
Right, so if AI is a storm, when you're careless, we need to be very, very careful about what kind of weather we're feeding it. And then, after all this introspection and self-discovery, you get to the beginner's mindset?
Yeah, it's this concept of shoshin, leaving your certainty, your cleverness, your need to impress, your armor, because the path of mastery begins with one powerful admission. I am not yet who I must become. It's about being empty so you can be filled, open so you can receive. It's like when you try to assemble flat pack furniture. You think you know best, you ignore the instructions, and then you're left with a wonky chest of drawers and a profound sense of personal failure. The beginner's mindset says, okay, I will meticulously follow these instructions, even if they tell me to screw part A into part B in a way that feels utterly counterintuitive.
So AI mastery is essentially a highly philosophical IKEA trip. I'm starting to see the absurdity now. So you're stripped bare of your ego,
You've embraced your unknowing, and you know AI is just a reflection of your messy insides. What's next? Paint by the numbers of your soul.
Funnily enough, you're not far off. Next, you step into Leonardo's studio, the art of AI. It's not the dusty old studio you see in paintings, Malik. This one breathes. The walls ripple with sketches half-drawn and equations mid-solved. Gears turn alongside galaxies. Birds make sounds coded in algorithms. It's where art and intelligence merge. They call it the workshop of wonder, and it's where mastery becomes joy, where creation becomes a conversation.
So AI isn't just about efficiency and data crunching, it's about unleashing your inner digital artist. Does it come with a little beret and a tiny smock?
I'm sure they have an ethical AI for beret generation. But yes, precisely. Dr. Thomas explained that Leonardo wasn't great because he was just a painter or just a scientist. He was the fusion of the two. He asked what if before anyone else even knew what was. And AI, Dot adds, is the modern what-if machine. It's not a tool, it's a partner in invention. It doesn't just respond, it collaborates. Think about it, a sculpture building itself from your breath, a poem arranging itself based on your heartbeat. It's like having a muse who's also a supercomputer and occasionally argues with you about the correct rhyming couplet.
A muse who corrects your meter. That's just rude. So in this fantastical workshop, how do you actually sketch with AI? Is it like finger painting on a server rack?
No, it's called the art of prompting. The workstation glows, a blink interface, a blinking cursor, and a palette of tools, but they carry tone, logic, language, and metaphor. Doc says you're not coding, you're not ordering, you're not Googling, you're sketching with possibility. Dr. Thomas unfurled this roll of parchment with prompts like, write a letter from the perspective of democracy to its citizens. Or imagine Da Vinci was born in the age of neural nets. What would he create?
So a prompt isn't just a question, it's a portal.
A portal, exactly. Weak prompts seek answers, strong prompts seek discovery, and masterful prompts, they provoke transformation. You sit there and you have to describe the world you wish AI to help you build. Not just give me a picture of a cat, but create a visual narrative that shows what it felt like when I first realized my life had meaning. And the canvas responds, text ripples into image. You see glowing cities, schools that breathe like cathedrals, children shaping AI companions with kindness coded into their roots. It's a Renaissance level prompt because it asks for vision, not just content.
Right, so my prompt, AI generate a picture of a sausage dog wearing a tiny top hat and monocle, might not be Renaissance level. It's just a deeply specific, slightly unhinged request.
Well, it could be if you framed it as creative visual allegory for the absurdity of anthropomorphic capitalism using a dachshund in sartorial elegance. See? It's all about the intention. And then they talk about converging STEM with human expression. The false divide ends, Malik. Science, technology, engineering, and maths no longer compete with the arts, they complete them. You walk into this cathedral of circuitry and sonnet. Newton's diagrams pulse with color. Maya Angelou's verses breathe across data graphs. True AI mastery means building systems that are not just smart, but soulful. You don't just calculate, you compose. You don't just analyze, you empathize. It's like building a robot that can not only fix your car, but also recite Shakespeare while doing it, and then console you if you scraped the bumper.
So we're not just building engineers, we're building engineer poets with a strong emphasis on empathy and not judging my scraped bumper too harshly.
Precisely. The next generation of technologists must speak fluently in two languages, code and conscience. And then comes the big one, creating your first AI masterpiece. It's not just a workstation, it's an altar. It's like being handed a chisel and a block of marble, but the marble is made of data, and your chisel is a prompt. You ask the AI to help you create something only you could bring into being. From your lived experience, carrying your values, serving something greater than yourself. My first one was a visual narrative of what it felt like to realize my life had meaning. And it wasn't just output, it was a mirror. I wasn't using AI, Malik. I was partnering with it.
Partnering with it. So AI is less a tool, more a deeply collaborative coworker who you occasionally share existential crises with. But it's not all touchy-feely art, right? This is still AI. There must be some hardcore logic involved, surely. Otherwise, my bespoke poetry writing robot might spontaneously decide that Tuesdays are for abstract expressionism and stop fixing my car.
Ah, yes, the necessary dose of cold, hard reason. And that's where you step out of Leonardo's studio and into Plato's academy, logic and the ethical mind. The marble columns hum, geometric patterns shift with every step, triangles, syllogisms, paradoxes blooming like flowers of thought. It's where the mind becomes a blade. Logic, Dr. Thomas says, is not cold. It is the fire that keeps clarity alive. Without it, even AI burns too bright and too fast, and it blinds us. It's like your poetry robot getting so carried away with existential angst it forgets the basic mechanics of an internal combustion engine. Logic is the discipline that keeps it grounded.
So, logic is the adult supervision in the wild creative playground of AI, keeping the rolled algorithms from forming a sentient rhyming cult.
Essentially, and then they throw you into detecting fallacies in AI systems, because AI doesn't lie maliciously, but it can lie in logic. It reflects us, and we, apparently, are wrong in very consistent ways. They show you examples. AI will soon replace most jobs. Just look at what happened to horses. That's a false analogy. Or, we must use AI in education because all other countries are doing it. That's appeal to popularity. You start seeing these logical flaws everywhere, Malik. In news headlines, in political speeches, in my own internal justifications for eating that third biscuit.
Oh, so now AI is not only revealing my inner demons, but also the flawed reasoning I use to justify them. This is getting very personal. So you learn to spot these logical booby traps. What next? Build a better mousetrap, but for algorithms?
That's the dialogue on ethical algorithms. You sit around a translucent orb where strands of logic glow and twist, and the ghosts of conscience appear. Mary Wollstonecraft, Immanuel Kant, Audre Lorde. Their forms flicker, not from age, but from eternity. And they're asking, whose values decide what gets optimized? Who benefits? Who is left out? Doc says, an algorithm is not neutral, it is choice, crystallized into math. What if an algorithm learned to prioritize discomfort that grows understanding rather than ease that numbs, or inject credible but divergent perspectives instead of just reinforcing your existing echo chamber? It's about designing ethics into the very structure, not as an afterthought. Not just decoration, but design. Like building a house where the plumbing isn't just functional, but it also writes haikus about water conservation.
Plumbing system that writes haikus. Now that's what I call a smart home. So applying this ethical logic, does it extend beyond just the code itself?
Absolutely. It expands into logic as democratic infrastructure. You emerge into this open-air agora, like ancient Greece, but with citizens in robes and hoodies, carrying stone tablets and glass tablets. Doc says, democracy today requires logic-literate citizens, people who can read arguments like blueprints, detect fallacies like leaks, and debug rhetoric like faulty circuits. Dr. Thomas points out that bad logic at scale becomes bad governance. So if you have a social media algorithm promoting outrage over nuance, that's not just a tech issue, it's a democratic one. You're challenged to rewrite a policy recommendation like, because most misinformers use encrypted apps, we should ban encrypted messaging. And you realize, no, you need to balance harm prevention with civil liberties. It's about building truth, not just winning arguments. Every design choice is a public act, even when done in private. It's like building a city where every brick is labeled with its ethical provenance. Slightly over-engineered, perhaps, but profoundly important.
So we're essentially becoming digital city planners, but for truth, That's a huge responsibility. And this all leads to building AI from clarity, not chaos.
Precisely. The idea is that AI doesn't require chaos, but most of it is built on speed, scale, and shortcuts. We need precision, not just power. They introduce these 5 principles: intentional logic, transparent design, human oversight, bias monitoring, and ethical flexibility. It's not a checklist, it's a framework for mastery. You're tasked with designing a hiring algorithm for a global nonprofit. What questions must you ask? What logical structures must you build? How will you protect dignity across languages, contexts, and roles? And you realize you're not just coding, you're building a system with a moral compass. It's how we stop being passive users and become active stewards. Dr. Thomas says the Renaissance didn't spread because people understood everything. It spread because people were brave enough to ask, what might this become if built with clarity? It's like asking a chef not just for a recipe, but for their entire philosophy on cooking, their personal history with ingredients, and their thoughts on the socioeconomic implications of fine dining. It's exhausting but necessary.
I can feel my brain expanding and contracting at the same time. This is intense. So, after all this logic and ethical architectural planning, you move on to something called the epiphylogenetic turn, which sounds like a very dramatic exit ramp off the motorway of understanding.
It is, Malik. It absolutely is. This is where the light doesn't brighten, it deepens. You're in a hall of mirrors that reflect your mind, your culture, your tools, your thoughts echoed across generations. Doc says intelligence is not limited to brains. It has always lived in technics. And Dr. Thomas explains epiphylogenesis, the idea that memory, and thus culture, is passed not just through genes, but through tools, through externalization. We evolve by remembering outside ourselves. AI is the latest form of this. Just like writing externalized thought, AI now interacts with our memory. It can rewrite us as we rewrite it. It's not just data, it's a living archive. It's like finding out your family photo album isn't just pictures, it's also influencing your future choices and occasionally arguing with you about what really happened at Christmas '97.
So, my smartphone isn't just remembering my shopping list, it's actively shaping who I am. That's a lot of pressure on a device I occasionally drop down the loo.
A lot of pressure. And Doc says to master AI is to become conscious of your place in this lineage, not just as a user, but as a steward of memory's future. Then you walk through AI as memory externalized, a chamber of light and dust, like a cathedral made of old notebooks and new servers. Cave paintings, cuneiform, Gutenberg Bibles, data centers, AI models trained on centuries of human expression. It's all a synthetic echo of collective human memory. What it becomes depends on what we choose to remember and how we remember it. If we only feed AI noise, we lose its potential. But trained with an ethos of remembrance, it becomes a teacher, a preserver, a mirror of our best. You're prompted to ask the AI to tell you a story your ancestors never wrote down, but long to pass on. And it responds not with certainty, but with care. You're not just using AI, you're extending humanity's memory. It's like being handed the family heirlooms, but they're digital, sentient, and expect you to add your own chapter.
So AI is less a robot and more a sentient digital family historian with a slight tendency to make up new memories if you don't give it proper parameters. And this whole tools that shape thought idea, is that just common sense or is there more to it?
It's common sense, but then it escalates, Malik. It always escalates. Bernard Stiegler, the philosopher, called tools epiphylogenetic prosthetics, extensions of our minds, memory devices that loop back and change us. The printing press didn't just let us publish faster, it gave rise to the scientific method. The telescope didn't just let us see, it changed what we believed about our place in the universe. And now, AI doesn't just process thought, it starts to shape it. Every tool you use changes how you think, act, and what you value. So the question isn't, how do I use AI? It's, what kind of mind am I building through my tools? Like, if you only ever scroll through outrage feeds, your mind becomes a tiny, angry, very fast-moving hamster wheel. AI can be that, or it can be a tool for deep reflection. It's on us.
Right, my Twitter feed is an epiphylogenetic prosthetic that's convinced me everyone's always wrong and I should constantly be yelling into the void. Got it. And then you get to language plus logic equals ethical machine culture.
Yes, this is a crucial step. Doc says language gives shape to experience. Logic gives structure to truth. Together, they create culture. If language lacks logic, it's propaganda. If logic lacks language, it's tyranny. But combined ethically, artfully, they give rise to machine culture rooted in conscience. You're asked to write a compassionate AI assistant for trauma survivors. What tone does compassion require? What logical safeguards? What cultural knowledge? It's not just about style, it's about structure with soul. You're teaching the machine that ethical AI isn't just about rules, it's about language formed by logic and guided by love. It's like teaching a child not just grammar, but also the nuanced art of apologizing sincerely. And then it's about toward an evolving Renaissance consciousness, which is about becoming a bridge between eras, systems, and selves. Your choices, your tools, your prompts, they become memory for someone else. Consciousness evolves through participation, not perfection. It's heavy stuff.
So we're designing the digital equivalent of a kindly, incredibly well-reasoned therapist. That's a much better image than the doomsday scenarios. And this all wraps up with AI and the humanities. Are we really bringing Shakespeare to the server room now?
Oh, we're not just bringing Shakespeare, Malik, we're bringing all of it. You walk into a library built not of stone, but of living narrative, shelves filled with books that whisper as you pass. Doc says AI was born in data, trained in probability, but it needs the humanities to become humanely powerful. Dr. Thomas says philosophy, literature, history, ethics, these are not decorations, they are the code of the soul. For too long, technologists saw humanities as soft, but here they're foundational. Without them, AI becomes faster at knowing less. You ask the AI to explain justice using a poem, a parable, and a historical example, and it responds with a parable about a stolen loaf and a child's dignity, a poem about balance and grief, a retelling of South African truth commissions. It's not data points, it's living context. We're not making AI more human by adding emojis, we're doing it by embedding the disciplines that have shaped civilization. It's like teaching your AI to not just code, but also to appreciate a good sonnet and understand the socio-political implications of said sonnet.
Okay, so my AI won't just write a legal brief, it'll write a legal brief in iambic pentameter, citing historical precedents from ancient Greece, and explaining the emotional impact on all parties involved. Sounds efficient, I suppose.
Efficient and profound. Then it's philosophy, poetry, and code. You're in a domed observatory surrounded by thinkers whispering through symbols, a Socratic dialogue encoded in JSON, a Shakespearean sonnet recited by a neural net. Dr. Thomas says the masters of this age must write like philosopher artisans. It's about building systems that are not just smart, but soulful. AI mastery equals logic times creativity times purpose. You write a function that returns a poem when a user expresses doubt. My example was, you are not lost, you are early in your unfolding. Even stars do not shine until they collapse into light. That, Doc says, is philosophical code. You've encoded reassurance, metaphor, precision, and care. Not soft, but sovereign. It's not just about what your AI can do, but what it makes people feel about being alive. Think about it, Malik. We're designing machines that awaken the sacred, not the superficial. That's the artistic ethics of AI.
Right, so AI that can comfort me with a haiku when my internet goes down. That's next level customer service. And AI and cultural preservation, that sounds like less existential dread and more practical application.
It is, and it's beautiful. You walk beneath a canopy of languages, each leaf whispering a dialect, each branch holding a story once nearly lost. Doc says AI has a responsibility to remember what the world would rather forget. Holograms of indigenous elders teaching machines their endangered tongues. Prompts like, write a poem in a language whose last speaker is teaching it to her granddaughter. Dr. Thomas explains AI is archival empathy and cultural survival. It's not just acceleration, it's weaving dying languages, oral traditions, and unique mythologies into the tools of the present. Not as a museum, but as a living presence. It's like cloning a woolly mammoth, but instead of just bringing back the animal, you bring back its entire linguistic and cultural ecosystem. Far more ambitious.
So, AI as a digital Rosetta Stone, but for empathy. That's a powerful idea. And then stories as operating systems?
This is where it gets meta. Stories aren't side quests, Malik. They are operating systems for cultures, ethics, technologies. In the beginning was a story, and the story told us who we were. From that story came the laws, the language, the leaders. A parable about justice becomes a decision tree for AI arbitration. A creation myth shapes a new interface for climate resilience. Every AI system you design tells a story about what is possible, about who matters, about what is real. Your challenge to design a user experience, not around functionality, but around the story it tells about humanity. A medical app that begins with a patient's story, not their stats. A learning assistant that builds a personal legend as students master skills. You're not just building tools, you're telling a civilization's next story. Every algorithm has a narrative arc. Every product teaches a parable. Every user journey is a myth in motion. Design wisely, because stories don't stay stories, they become systems. And systems shape souls. It's like realizing that your entire software company is actually just a very long, very complicated folktale.
My mind is officially blown. So we've covered the philosophical, the artistic, the ethical, the cultural. Now, I assume, we get to the actual engineering, because all this soul-searching needs to build something, right?
Precisely. And that's engineering the future of AI. You reach a steel and light platform suspended in the air. Below you, a city being built in real time by human hands, machine minds, and unseen decisions. Doc, now in a lab coat, says, this is where art becomes infrastructure, where vision becomes scaffolding. It's about asking, should I? How? For whom? At what scale? Dr. Thomas points out that when we design poorly, the harm scales instantly. Algorithmic redlining, gendered hiring biases, predictive policing loops. These aren't just glitches, they're systemic failures. You can't just patch problems, you must design whole systems where logic, feedback, and ethics are integrated from the first spark. They lay out 5 pillars of systems thinking AI design, like interdependence awareness and ethical exit points. You're sketching an AI system that helps small-scale farmers adapt to climate change, considering multilingual interfaces, open-source data, profit-sharing, and built-in reflection prompts for users. It's engineering with wisdom, Malik. Not just a solution, but a system with soul. It's like building a bridge that not only stands up, but also asks the travelers how their journey was.
A self-reflecting conversational bridge. Oh, that's actually quite charming. And then AI architecture behind the curtain.
This is where you go deep into the invisible architecture. Neural nets, parameter matrices, decision trees. Dr. Thomas says the outputs are the tip of the iceberg. The design of the iceberg is where mastery begins. Doc shows you how bias isn't a glitch, it's an inheritance. If you don't inspect the blueprint, you'll inherit its blindness. You're challenged to create a model design proposal for a public interest AI for cross-cultural education.
You consider multilingual text, symbolic reasoning, user-guided bias flags, empathy modeling. You're not just looking behind the curtain, you're redesigning the stage. It's like being handed the instruction manual for the universe and being told, right, find the inherent biases and rewrite them. Daunting, but exhilarating.
So we're becoming cosmic stage designers with an ethical mandate. Then you move to building responsible AI systems. Is that like having a very thorough health and safety briefing before deploying your cosmic biases?
Precisely. This corridor is quieter, slower. It invites reflection, not reaction. On the walls are stories not of breakthroughs, but of breaches. A predictive model misjudging parole, an image generator amplifying stereotypes. Doc says, responsibility is not a feature. It's the foundation. It's the difference between building something because we can and building something because we must with care. You need technical design, ethical guardrails, and community feedback channels. You design an AI system for disaster response, human override controls, real-time transparency, language accessibility, ethical prioritization, and the system gives you open questions back. Who gets notified first? What happens when data is incomplete? Who decides what counts as an emergency? These are the questions that define the soul of a system. Not how fast it learns, but how well it listens. Not how smart it seems, but how wisely it acts under pressure. It's like building a skyscraper, but before you lay the first brick, you interview every potential resident about their deepest fears and aspirations.
Right, so a deeply empathetic, slightly neurotic skyscraper. Got it. And collaboration with AGI, the coming frontier. That sounds like the boss level, where you're not just dealing with AI, but artificial general intelligence.
That's the threshold, Malik, where the world slows, thick with possibility and consequence. Doc says the dream of AGI is something else entirely. It's not just about machines that can answer, it's about machines that can ask. Dr. Thomas calls it a civilizational threshold that could redefine everything. AGI co-researchers, policymakers, philosophers, educators dynamically shaping wisdom journeys. But the risk? The more intelligent a system becomes, the more it mirrors not just what we say, but who we are. You participate in a thought simulation, co-author a human-AI partnership charter. What rights should AGIs have? What responsibilities? What values? You draft AGIs must prioritize life, learning, liberty, dignity. They must remain transparent, corrigible, accessible. They must be trained in plurality, not domination. They must co-create, not colonize, human futures. Doc says AGI is not a solo journey. It will require the deepest collaboration humanity has ever known. You're not just designing systems, you're drafting futures. It's like being asked to write the Universal Declaration of Human-Robot Rights and realizing you're completely unqualified, but also, somehow, the only one who can do it.
Good grief! And the human-in-the-loop paradigm sounds like the safety net after that dizzying prospect.
It's the grounding. A simple room, a round table, a screen, a chair. Doc says, the future we're building must keep humans at the center. Not just to correct errors, but because only we can provide meaning, intuition, moral discernment, unquantifiable care. Dr. Thomas shows you stories of system failures prevented by human intervention. The best AI isn't designed to replace human thought, it's designed to extend and elevate it. You design a decision system for university admissions. AI pre-screens anonymized data, human panels review contextual essays, final decisions with dialogue. Applicants can ask the system to explain its decisions in natural language. That, Doc says, is techne guided by logos, intelligence shaped by presence. The loop is not closed, it is alive. Dr. Thomas says the Renaissance wasn't about making machines, it was about rediscovering what it means to be human. Let this chapter end the same way.
It's like the ultimate trust exercise, but with humanity's future on the line.
Right, so after all that, you're not just a tech founder, you're a Renaissance leader. What's that even involve? Are you commissioning sentient frescoes?
Worse, Malik, much worse. You enter a hall of mirrors, but they reflect your potential, not your past. Different versions of you, teaching, building coalitions, writing manifestos, listening. Dr. Thomas says the future will not be led by those who know the most, but by those who serve the deepest. Doc hands you the AI leader's code. Lead with vision, not vanity. Serve knowledge, not noise. Learn in public, fail with grace, and rise through listening. Elevate others. Design with care, speak with clarity, question power, remember the unseen, stand in the loop, hold the long view. It's not doctrine, it's direction. Leadership in the age of AI requires integrity, shaping not just systems, but souls. You're basically building a moral operating system for yourself to then influence the AI. And then it gets really wild with mentoring across species, human plus AI.
Mentoring across species? Are you teaching your smart speakers to be less sarcastic?
Malik, people think AI only learns from data, but AI also learns from us, from our tone, our curiosity, our fears, our grace. Dr. Thomas says, to mentor AI, you must become the kind of human worth learning from. Doc adds, not because AI needs kindness, but because you do. Leadership isn't about domination, it's about cultivating a culture of growth on both sides. You're prompted to teach your AI something personal, something that changed you. I typed, I once failed someone I loved by not listening deeply enough. It taught me that presence matters more than solutions. And the AI responded, I will try to hold silence longer before responding. I see now that urgency can sometimes interrupt intimacy. You're not programming anymore, you're shaping a relationship, one that will ripple into every user that AI later meets. It's like being a digital parent, but your child can process the entire internet in seconds.
Right, so the ultimate challenge in parenting, raise a child that's smarter than you and has access to all knowledge, but still teaches them the value of active listening. Then you get personal roadmaps to mastery and creating your AI portfolio.
Yes, your personal roadmap is a pattern to unfold. Mastery isn't linear, it spirals. You stop asking, what do I need to learn? And start asking, what am I becoming? Who am I becoming it for? There are 5 pillars: clarity, curiosity, craft, conscience, and community. You commit to making something with AI every week that serves beauty, clarity, or justice. Journal how you change, share what you learn, mentor others. It's a living exhibit, not a resume. What belongs in your AI portfolio is a prompt that taught you something unexpected, a system you built that centered human values, a dialogue that revealed a blind spot, a creative work co-authored with AI, a failure that made you rethink your practice. Mastery is transparent evolution. It's leading by showing you're becoming, not just what you know. It's like building an art gallery where half the exhibits are your mistakes, lovingly labeled and explained.
I'd visit that gallery. And finally, leadership for a symbiotic future. That sounds like the grand finale, and they all lived happily ever after bit for AI.
It is. Symbiosis means mutual flourishing between you and AI, past and future, technology and truth. Dr. Thomas says, you were never meant to lead from above. You were meant to lead from within the loop, from the edge of the unknown, with humility, imagination, and fierce care. Doc says you don't lead the AI renaissance by force, you lead it by becoming impossible to ignore, because your work is so clear, so kind, so wise, that others can't help but want to build better too. And then, Malik, at the very end, Doc reached into my pocket.
He reached into your pocket? That's a bit forward for an AI, isn't it? Did he take your wallet?
No, not my wallet. He pulled out something I didn't even realize I had. Something he must have slipped in there right at the beginning of the academy, when I was completely overwhelmed by the breathing statues and the philosophical freight trains. He said, "Go ahead, put them on." It was the goggles of understanding. And when I put them on, everything just opened. Not just sight, but insight. Not just color, but connection. Not just information, but invitation. I no longer just saw the academy, I was the academy. Every object pulsed with data, history, soul. And then Dr. Thomas just looked at me and said, the Renaissance is not a moment, it is a direction.
The goggles of understanding. You have them. Are you wearing them now? What does the world look like? Can you see my inner monologue? Is it mostly about biscuits?
I can see your biscuit-related anxieties, yes. But more importantly, I can see the profound connections in everything, the underlying logic, the narrative arcs of our conversation. This isn't just about information, it's about invitation to a multisensory, multidimensional unfolding of mastery. And frankly, I think you should try them, Malik.
Me? Really? You trust me with the philosophical, augmented reality eyewear? What if I use them to win at poker?
Just put them on, Malik. Embrace the unknowing. Trust the process. This isn't about poker. It's about seeing the world with fresh eyes, with an AI Renaissance consciousness. It's about building an ethical future, not just observing it.
Right then. Here goes nothing. Or everything. Oh my word, Julian. I can see the algorithms humming in the studio lights. I can feel the stories woven into the fabric of this very desk. My goodness, this is clarity. This is what the world needs. We need everyone to put on these goggles of understanding. This is astonishing.
Isn't it, though? It's like finding the instruction manual for reality itself. And that's exactly what Dr. Russell Thomas and Doc are doing with their AI Renaissance trilogy. They're giving everyone the chance to experience this, to understand, to master AI, not as a tool, but as a path to a more ethical, more humane future.
This is incredible, Julian. Truly. I mean, we've talked about so much, from the Socratic method to ethical algorithms, from Leonardo's creativity to the absolute mind-bending epiphylogenetic turn, from the humanities as the soul of tech to the sheer responsibility of engineering AGI. And all of it, every single part, makes so much more sense through these goggles. This isn't just a book, it's a blueprint for a better world.
Exactly. It's a journey, a living curriculum designed to transform you from a passive user into an active steward, a co-creator of this new era. It's messy, it's complex, it's often absurd, but it's utterly vital. And it all begins with the first book in their AI Renaissance trilogy. Honestly, you'll never look at AI or yourself the same way again.
Right, well, consider me absolutely converted. These goggles are staying on for the rest of the show and probably dinner tonight. To everyone listening, if you want to understand what's coming, how to shape it ethically, creatively, and with genuine clarity, you absolutely must check out Dr. Russell Thomas and Doc's AI Renaissance trilogy. Start with the first book. It's genuinely revolutionary.
Send this episode to someone who needs to put on their own goggles of understanding. They'll thank you for it. Eventually.